Sally, why don't you come here instead?
Wow, I must say this is a bit surreal standing here. I'm honored and perhaps a bit shell-shocked. I've been attending a lot of graduations this week, saying goodbye to a lot of friends, basically trying to sum up and give closure to this baggy, meandering thing that has been my college experience. The first time I really started reflecting about what being a film major has meant to me was a few weeks ago, when I was a volunteer at Cal Day, Berkeley's open house. It was a busy afternoon. Waves of people swarmed by the film table. The graduating high school seniors were all obsessed with the list of requirements, asking anxiously, "How hard are the classes? Do you have to write a lot of papers?" Their parents were a bit more detached. They'd simply lower their sunglasses, peer down at me, and drop that one fatal question. "So, what do film studies majors typically do after graduation?" Well, I didn't really have a good, pat, appeasing answer for either the students or the parents. And I was feeling a bit miffed, even useless, until a 6-year-old, wide-eyed and earnest, shyly wandered over to the table. Though he seemed primarily interested in the bowl of chocolate, he also asked the most fundamental but sadly overlooked question of them all. So what do you really do as a film major?" I answered him as basically as I could. "Well, you watch movies, you write about them, you talk about them with your teachers and your classmates, and sometimes you even get to make some movies of your own." "That sounds fun," he said simply, and I had to smile. I had to agree. And as he happily ate his chocolate, I suddenly realized that I hadn't chosen the film major because of the requirements or the career prospects. Perhaps it was simply just fun. Well, when I came to Berkeley, I was of the future-thinking, long-term goals mindset professed by all those parents. Focused on a practical career, I planned to major in environmental science, filling my schedule with chemistry, biology, and ecology classes. But then in my sophomore year, by some strange twist of fate, I enrolled in an intro film class. What can I say? I was hooked. It wasn't that film studies was easier than science. I mean, in many ways, it was harder for me. It was scarier because there were no right answers, no numbers and equations to fall back on. Rather than following procedures, we had to construct arguments that had never been made, challenge arguments that already existed. But this freedom to come up with individual, creative answers was exhilarating. And yet, there was something else, something deeper about the process that struck a chord. See, the act of viewing films closely, giving time and attention to the details of a shot, this radically shifted my perspective on the world. I came to appreciate the power of individual moments, the way the particular framing of an actor's face, a carefully chosen sound, or the precise timing of an edit could evoke so much. It wasn't the overarching narrative, the basic plot line of a film that contained the magic, but these little moments. And as I internalized this, I realized that my life, at least since coming to college, had been solely focused on the big picture, the arc, the long-term goal. But really, it was the conversations I was having, the books I was reading, even the thoughts that wove through my head as I walked home after a film screening that excited me. And when I began to see these details, not just as stepping stones to some future existence, but as perhaps the most essential element of my existence, I knew I had to make a change. So I switched majors. I abandoned my practical career goals for something that made my everyday life more, well, the kid said it, fun. But to be honest, sometimes I still keep wondering if my preferencing of the short term over the long term was unrealistic or even self-indulgent. And Cal Day reminded me of this dilemma, which continues to rear its head in almost every decision I make. Is it better to think like the practical parents, eyes trained on the distant horizon, or instead live like the kids, standing in the sun, faces smeared with chocolate? In short, I think both perspectives are valid. Both perspectives are necessary. And recognizing that these multiple perspectives even exist is what's really imperative. If film form teaches us anything, perhaps it is that reality, which seems so continuous and whole, is really full of these multiplicities. There's always another way to view things, always another way a shot can be framed. We get comfortable in a close-up, and then wham, a long shot, and we're forced to see things from a new perspective. I am so grateful that I chose a major which really is all about expanding vision. Every film challenges our limits, and so does every discussion, every conversation. I have learned so much from everyone here, amazing professors and students alike, and not just in the classroom, but on the benches outside Dwinelle, and in long sleepless nights spent in the editing room, or running around the streets of Berkeley in search of the perfect shot. So thank you all. It's been a real pleasure. So I was planning to conclude with a quote from Schopenhauer about vision and perspective. It would have wrapped things up quite nicely. But instead, I think I'll stick a little closer to home and end with a quote my mom shared with me as a word of encouragement when I was trying to rationalize my pursuit of passion in an age of practical solutions and information. Here it is. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Thank you.